I am quite bad at drawing heads, so let's change that. I'm taking on the 100 heads drawing challenge. The challenge is quite simple. Draw 100 heads over a certain period of time. Most people do this in a few months or weeks, but not me. I have set a time limit for myself of just 1 week, finishing off with a magnificent surprise. So make sure you grab a snack and like and subscribe. I'm not going to take up any more of your time or mine. So let's go right back to where it all began. Just for this challenge alone, I actually bought a new sketchbook and I immediately creased it. Nice. But the outside isn't what matters. It's on the inside what is important. Gay! So let's get into the plan. Most artists, probably have a specific style in which they draw, but I don't have a specific style yet. I can draw in a comic book style, realism, a manga-ish style, and some more. So for each page I will try a different style or combination of different styles to create some cool heads. And to start us off, I decided on realism. It is by far the best base to work off of, because you can learn about proportions, values, and the character, the look of heads. Although I don't like these two heads, we are just going to ignore those. The next page is where things truly come to life. Using a random head generator, I got some interesting portraits, which I could use as reference. For portraits, I would usually recommend using the Lewix method. It is a very well-known method, where you break the head down into simpler shapes to get the proportions correct. For a lot of styles, I'm actually not really a fan of this technique, because it doesn't allow for a lot of creativity. But for realism, it's perfect. In these drawings, you might get a grasp of the technique. Believe me, it's child's play once you learn it. And you will be able to accurately draw any face you want. There are a lot more things that go into drawing a good head, but all of those bases will be covered in future pages. So let's finish this page off with a cool statue-like drawing and get on to the next. Page number 2, I did a full 180, going from realism to an anime style. I'm quite a fan of anime, although I do think the dialogue is sometimes really cringy. But yo, they know how to do fight scenes. One of the first anime I watched, Naruto, when Pain was attacking the village, that was amazing. And after that, I watched Dragon Ball Z and Super, Death Note, and I was busy watching Dr. Stone during this page. Like I said, it's very different from realism, and with this style, there are actually some sub-styles. Generally though, there are a lot of similarities between those sub-styles. It usually consists of simple lines, with the features being slightly manipulated to create a different look, like making an eye shape more like a square instead of an almond. I took a few of my favorite anime and turned some of the characters in there into drawings. Goku and Vegeta, Light and Ryuk. This drawing of Ryuk, by the way, turned out awesome. I saw a realistic rendition of him before, so I kind of based this off of that. This is kind of what I mean with combining styles, by the way, which I will be doing more later on. And because I was watching Dr. Stone during this page, I decided to include my boy Senku as well. I learned a few things with this page, and tested my knowledge by turning myself into an anime style as well. LewixArt anime adaptation? Maybe? Anyone? Hell no! Hey! By now though, we are at the end of day 1, so I had to call it quits on head 17 and crashed into bed. Okay, so let me get this straight. The 100 heads challenge consists of drawing 100 heads, but I haven't seen anything about having to draw 100 individual heads. So I decided to take one of my better styles, being fantasy, and design a completely new character based off of the prompt Headhunter. Get it? Cause it's the 100 heads challenge. Anyways, I had sort of an idea of what I wanted to draw going into this. With character designs, the silhouette is very important. That is when you completely black out your character and just look at the outline. If it isn't very recognizable, you have done a poor job at designing your character. And you are dumb.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
You can achieve a cool silhouette through extreme proportions or certain elements that really pop out. And considering this drawing will have to do something with heads, with the head being the main focus of course, eventually I settled on this. And then I only had to ink it. And while I do, let me tell you a bit about his backstory. This is an ancient being roaming in Northeast Asia, having lived for thousands of years, feeding off of other people. The way he feeds is very interesting. His energy supply comes from the cerebral energy we all pulse out. And us humans being the smartest animal on Earth, we are its main course. It hunts by utilizing its daggers and telepathy to sever your head cleanly, after which it will be stored on either its waist or in his head, which consists of several heads, cycling through their energy. Yeah, that's the basics of it. For how many heads are in this drawing, I could count a total of 11 heads. 5 on top, 5 at his waist, and 1 in his chest. I would be down to color this one in using grey tones, but we are sadly enough on a time limit. So if you'd like to see something like that, I will make a video for it on my TikTok channel, which you can check out with the link in the description. The next page, I really had an itch that I needed to scratch. And that itch was the comic book style. For me, it was the style that I first really fell in love with, practicing hours on end trying to get good at it. It started off with CHC. His style is just absolutely amazing. And eventually I discovered other comic book artists like Jim Lee, David Finch and Todd McFarlane. For this page, that was the only plan, draw some comic book style stuff, but it eventually turned into something quite interesting. At the top, I decided to draw Batman, Superman, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. Obviously all of these characters belong to DC. And at the bottom, I did a whole bunch of Marvel characters. The comic book style consists of very harsh shadows, with hatching to make gradients or textures. It takes a bit to master this style, and honestly, I don't think I have. Some things are still quite off with these drawings, but I think that is because these drawings were a bit influenced by the anime style that I did earlier. One thing that I really like though is the usage of color. In some of these drawings I used no color at all, but in others I did, and it caused for an interesting sort of accents feeling across the page. And I'm all for that. With the last few characters and heads getting blocked in, I think this page is also done. And in my opinion, it's quite alright. Some things could have definitely been better, but I'm satisfied with it. By now though, I've been drawing for 10 hours straight. And I think I'm hallucinating a tiny bit. So, I gotta hit the sack, finishing off on head 38. From the past 2 days, I spotted some mistakes. They're very minor mistakes, but it did kind of annoy me. One of those mistakes were with the shape of the head. With that I don't mean the placement of the features, but rather the overall shape and how light interacts with it. It's kind of hard to explain, but I can show you more clearly with these drawings. I divide the head up into planes, which makes it way easier to see where the light hits and where the shadows are created. Seriously, this is an amazing exercise to improve your heads. As you will see from this point onwards, this exercise really influenced how I draw the following heads. I will point them out for you when I spot them. Besides being good practice, it is also just a really cool style, utilizing really hard edges and shadows instead of gradual rounder shapes. It is definitely a very stylized way to draw the head, borderlining abstract art. The last drawing of this page I actually lean more towards the abstract part of this style. On top of that, there's also a hint of animation in there, but just very slightly. Especially with head 42 through 44, you can kind of see this. Now, head 48 through 50, the drawing to show the halfway point. I took the three-headed elements plus the more abstract aesthetic and created this. Genuinely, I really like this drawing, and as a mark for the halfway point, I think it's perfect. Head 51. I am a furry. That's a joke, I'm not. But I thought that it could be cool to draw some anthropomorphic animals. That's basically when you humanify an animal. Like bear plus dude equals this freak. You get the concept. And I took this concept to the next level with the next drawing, combining a lion with a human. I swear I'm not a furry, I swear. Going for a Beauty and the Beast type of vibe. I had a pretty good idea for what I was going for, combining the Beast with Beast Boy, because that is definitely not confusing at all. Combining what I've learned from the comic book style page and the last one. But if I were to ask you what my favorite part is of this drawing, what would it be? The nose? No. The ears? No. It's the hair. I'm not sure what I did, but by using straight lines and sharp corners, I got a really cool effect that gives a perfect stylized effect for hair. Then adding some lines in between to add that hair strands effect. It looks very, very nice. At last, I decided to fill up the last empty space with a cool military style drawing. It's kind of inspired by Kim Jong-ji's work, but mine is, you know, worse. In total, there are 5 heads here, bringing our total up to 58. I'll stop yapping now and let you guys just look at the footage. Well, it's time for bed. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for this page, but I did know what kind of tool I wanted to use, and that tool is watercolor. With watercolor you can go in a lot of different directions, all the way from realism to abstract, and in between those two, you got your anime styles and your comic book styles. I personally don't have that much experience with watercolor. Most of the times when I use it, it looks very unprofessional. So the simple goal for this page is to make it look good. Oh yep. To start us off, I made this realistic portrait based off of this image. How I use watercolor was kinda strange. First layering the undertones and then on top of that the main colors. The underlying colors will still be visible, which can give a cool or warm undertone. Or just the general shaded area. And that's kind of what I went for here. It's okay, but with the next painting, I got a way better grasp of watercolor. Again, going back to my comic book style base, I combined that with watercolors. I'll just let you look at this one, because I really like the Daredevil. The Batman looks pretty bad though. One of the artists that inspired this page is Ito Scares Me, who is a phenomenal artist that creates cool watercolor comic book style combos. Especially for the Spider-Man, I took inspiration from him. I saw in his process that he very loosely paints in these characters, utilizing the natural blending and texture of the medium. I am bad at it, but I tried my best. In the end though, I think it looks quite alright, although some parts could definitely be tighter. And let's finish it off with Hellboy. With this one I truly felt like I got a better grasp of the style, with harsher colors and more contrast, using the fire with which he's lighting his cigar as a main light source. Surprisingly enough, using some white gel pen works really well. Maybe not that well for the jacket, but for the right hand of Doom and the head, it worked pretty nicely. In the end, I think I improved with the style. Going to the next page in medium, we have got ourselves markers. I got these markers gifted from Ohuhu, so that is pretty cool. And they are quite good. With these markers, I got to work making the blob. Just to test these markers, looking nice and gooey. For some of these drawings I used some random colors, but surprisingly they actually combined really well. But like, really well. This flash for instance was not really planned or anything, but wow! These colors work really well together. I put a color guide beside it for you artists. Just using these markers was so satisfying. But there was one issue. This sketchbook has smooth paper, and when I do my inking with my fine liners, the ink first has to settle in the paper, and that takes some time. If I don't wait, and they still lay on top, when I go over it with my markers, the ink will bleed out, which sucks. It kind of happened with the Goku, where there was a smudge at the corner of his mouth. But if you don't use inks, you don't have that issue. And these gobs are looking quite nice, counting for head 66, 67, and 68. And if you thought that I was gonna do some childish stuff for head 67, no! Stupid. But head 69. Where was I? Head 70 and 71 were a bit special, because I took a tad bit of inspiration from the artists A.M. Cassandra and Robert Valley, who made the episode Zima Blue in Love, Death and Robots. Yo! Genuinely? These colors look so good. Very experimental, but still cohesive in some way. And with some added white gel pen, it's finished. I spelled life wrong. At the bottom, I just did a quick Joker illustration that I surprisingly enough really ended up liking. Although being very stylized, the character is still recognizable, which is always important. And just like that, I went to bed. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go. I've got a big day ahead of me, so let's jump right into the first page. Many of you probably don't know, but I'm a pretty big fan of Slipknot. Coming from a household that usually only played stuff like the Beatles, something like metal was such a stark contrast. In a very good way though, and after hearing some of Slipknot's stuff, I must say, I've become quite a fan. I especially like their 1999 album, with songs like Wait and Bleed and Liberate. So you know, I kinda had to draw these guys. There are a total of 9 members, numbered 0 through 8. That means that we can add 9 whole heads to the counter. And with some corner elements like their logo, 1999, and the barcode, with the release date and 666 and 1999, I think it's all done. I'm planning on finishing this illustration later with inks, markers, and watercolor. And when it is done, you can find it in my shop. You can go there with the link in the description, or by typing in LewixArt.com in the search bar. I've got a lot of cool stuff besides just this, and it's ever expanding. If you want to help me and get yourself something cool, you can go over there. The next page. I am actually so proud of this page. Just watch it all the way through, genuinely. I gave myself a lot more freedom with this page, because I kinda got sick of the themes. This still kind of has a theme, but not really. starting off with this high contrast masked figure in the top, with a sort of sigilistic ring behind him, and beside him 2 different beings. One, a demonic being with a long snake-like tongue, and on the right, a modern angel-ish being with severed praying hands, both with the same sort of cyber-sigilistic style behind them. With this just being the first part, I already really liked it, but I needed something cohesive at the bottom, and I had just the thing. King Baldwin, the King of Jerusalem, also known as the Leper King. Again, here you can see elements from all the way back to Head 50. Quite angular facial features with clear distinction between what areas are pointed towards the light and what areas are pointed towards the ground. That's important because the mask is made of metal, which is a slightly reflective material. So by creating slight separations and gradations, you can get the illusion that what you're looking at is reflected. Finishing the king by rendering his clothing, which was kept nice and simple. That way more attention would go towards the head, which we want. I wasn't really satisfied though. It missed something. And I knew what. Little demonic babies. In old paintings, you can find these little angelic babies with trumpets, which I really like the vibe of. I just wanted to put my own twist on it. So I gave these little dudes modern diapers and t-shirts with pentagrams on them. And spontaneously, I also decided to give them wings, although fitting them in was quite a challenge. This page though, whew, I really like it. To finish this challenge off, the very last page. Oh my. Was this a journey, and I can confidently say that I have gotten way better at drawing heads. Problems that I used to have, I managed to polish out during these 100 heads. Just like the page before, I decided to take my own approach, doing something that I like instead of a set theme. Starting off with a knight, with the helmet being the face, and the shield being a face as well. Stuff like this is right up my alley, and I really enjoy creating stuff like knights and other dark fantasy elements. And in that theme, I went to the next drawing. Blasphemy means taking the Lord's name in vain, but it is also a game, and the character that I am drawing here is actually from Blasphemous. Simply put, just an awesome design, with the needles going all the way to the tip of the helmet. I applied my usual shading style to the armor, giving that metallic feel, and inverting the color for where the rain goes over a dark area, finishing this bad boy with a red base and a blue background. I really like this one. 7 heads left, so I decided to end it with the Justice League. A very dynamic pose and composition, with every member on it. But the Justice League only has 6 members, so that makes 99 heads, not 100. Well, my friends. This whole video, I've actually been lying to you. I didn't complete these heads in 7 days, but in 5. I will be using the next 2 days to combine all of my knowledge from the past 99 heads into one massive portrait. No stops, all brakes are loose. Let's finish this challenge. Slowly throughout this journey, I've been conjuring and manifesting this idea, this design. So it was time to put it on paper. I knew that I wanted it to do something with me. No, I'm not vain. I'm just egotistical. So I decided on an introspective portrait. Introspective means the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. So I have to base something off of myself. I'm quite a curious being. I love exploring things and figuring out how they look, looking beneath the layers. And from that, I could combine that sense with a literal introspective look at my head, seeing through the layers. The outer shell being my mask that my persona has. You know, the character that is speaking to you right now. Then beneath that, a little slice of my face showing a rather unbothered expression. Thirdly, my skull with anatomically correct features. And at last, my brain. As you can see by this sketch, the separations aren't perfect, but rather uneven, which was intentional. I like it more that way, giving a rougher, more realistic separation. Throughout this video, I haven't covered shading with a pencil yet, so I can perfectly use this time to do that. To begin, let's get one thing out of the way. Technically, you can use only one pencil, but I would highly recommend you add some other tools to your arsenal. An array of pencils are incredibly useful, all the way from 2H to 8B. Higher or lower than that isn't really necessary, because you pretty much won't go there. And a blending stone. This is a tool that helps you smooth out areas of graphite, or at least that's how I use it. Then for the general shading technique, depending on what texture you want, you can do a few different things. For something like skin texture, you should follow the flow of the skin. It sounds kinda strange, but that way you get a natural feel for which way the skin is going and the shape. Sounds strange, I know, but it works. But for other things, you can use circles instead, which will give you a very smooth look with minimal blending needed. With that, you can basically create this drawing, but to make it better and easier for yourself, you can also use a kneadable eraser. It's a moldable eraser that lets you adjust the tiniest of details. If you don't have this, you should get it, believe me. With it, I lighten sketches, get into tiny spaces, and I am able to lighten something up just a tiny bit, instead of with a rubber eraser where you take almost the whole drawing off. At last, I also use a mechanical eraser for stuff like highlights. It's a tiny eraser, which lets you make minuscule details for stuff like texture or highlights. I no joke, can't live without this eraser. It's so good. And if you ever need more handy tips, you can get them in my Discord server, where I have a lot of them. Link in the description if you would like to join the art army. And with all of those techniques and tools, you too can make an immaculate portrait like this one. Subscribe. For those of you who don't know, I just use these end parts to talk some dumb stuff. By the way, if you liked the video, you should definitely subscribe. It helps out a ton. And there is another video right here. I'm just keeping it real with you. This vid didn't take 7 consecutive days, but rather 7 days over 3 weeks. I did spend only 1 day per, time segment though, so there was no cheating there. Just want to keep it honest. Yeah, definitely learned a lot, especially with those colors. Crazy. And my watercolor improved a lot too, which I'm quite impressed by. I wasn't expecting that. Even when I do straight ahead drawing, now my heads just look, amazing. I like my headphones. And with that statement, I will end the video.